dear researchers, higher studies students, and those who are generally interested in the topic of academic writing and publishing. Hello and welcome to this new tutorial about the topic of academic writing and publishing, and especially more specifically the academic articles or the journal papers. Here we'll discuss some main aspects of writing a research paper or a journal paper. We'll start with the introduction, and this introduction is about the nature of the academic writing. So the language of science and academia is a good scientific language which is characterized by objectivity. So it has to be objective. This means it doesn't represent the ideas of the author or the authors. Rather, it represents the findings that the researchers have come through. So this means that the paper must present a balanced discussion of range of views, not a single point of view. Moreover, judgments which involve formal or moral beliefs of what is right or wrong must be avoided. So nothing personal, nothing to express what we think is right or wrong. Rather, we have to express what the experiment shows. Hence, the use of personal pronouns is unnecessary and can also lead to some sort of biasing, which doesn't support the assumptions. So in scientific papers, personal pronouns should not be used, or at least should be avoided as much as we can. The structure of the scientific article. Actually, there are different standards and different standard structures to facilitate communicating the scientific articles. But there is a very famous standard or standard structure to facilitate this communication. This standard is known as IMRaD or IMRaD. Okay, and this is an abbreviation for introduction, method, results, and discussion. We'll go through every and each part of these. As I mentioned, there are variations from this basic format, but most of the modern papers would adapt this IMRaD format or something similar, quite similar to this format. So IMRaD is a formula for writing up, and it is a method for making the scientific enterprise look much more logical than it actually looks. Characteristics of a good scientific paper. A good scientific paper should have some certain characteristics. Some of these main characteristics are the following. It should, first of all, present an accurate account of the research investigation. It should be clearly written and easily understood. It should follow the particular style of the scientific discipline. It should be free of jargon and local slang, so it's something formal, so we cannot use jargon and local slang. It should have or has, as a characteristic, it has an appropriate and adequate illustrative materials to facilitate transforming or elaborating the ideas or the findings to the readers. It doesn't contain any plagiarized material. Plagiarism is a serious offense and is a serious charge against an author. So no papers are accepted for publishing if they are characterized by plagiarism, or this is some sort of stealing or somebody else's effort and just putting into your paper. So this is not acceptable. Certainly you can take some parts and you have to reference these parts or cite, make some sort of citation as we will see. But the usually good magazines, good publishers or journals would not accept papers with similarity rate more than 30%. The first part we'll start with is the title. Title is very important and has to show the what the author is intending to do. Okay, it has to represent the whole paper. So all articles begin with title, and most articles, or if not all, include an abstract. Several include keywords. We'll see what keywords mean and abstract also. All these three describe an article's content in varying degree of detail and abstraction. Why do we have to have a title? The title is designed to stimulate the reader's interest. So whenever you read the title, it will attract your attention, okay, if you are interested in that field of study. The abstract, on the other hand, summarizes the content. So if you like the title, then you'll go for the abstract. Okay, then if the abstract looks or seems fine for you, then you can go for reading the rest of the paper. And the keywords, sometimes called descriptors, together with the title and abstract, facilitate computer-based search and retrieval. So it makes it easier for those who are searching on the internet or on any networks to reach your paper or find your paper. A good title for a research report would have some certain characteristics. It should contain as few words as possible. It shouldn't be lengthy. It should describe the content of the paper accurately. Describe the subject as specifically as possible within the limits of space. It avoids abbreviations, formulas, and jargon. Usually omits verbs and is only a label. So usually we don't use verbs on titles because it's a label. Contains keywords for the benefit of information retrieval systems. So some of the keywords must be used in the title. Create the title that matches the most commonly searched keywords for your topic. Then the authors. Authors. Sometimes you might have a single author, sometimes you have multiple authors. Some of the papers might contain even tens of authors. This is not recommended. Usually 1 to 3 or 5 authors would be the optimum. Okay, but sometimes it can go beyond this number. So if you have more than one author, then authors might require solutions in terms of who comes first, because the first one is called usually the principal or the main author. The problem gets more difficult as the number of authors increases, so the sequence would be an issue. The names should be complete enough to ensure proper identification, so you cannot just write your first name or family name. You have to have at least first name, middle name, and the family name. Okay? If there is any chance of confusion, then this is a problem. So use full names instead of initials. Initials can only be used in the middle name. Include only people who are truly authors. So sometimes people who help, like sometimes those who might help you in surveys or in labs, like lab technicians, lab attendants. Okay, these people, these are not considered to be authors, so you cannot include them. Also, the names should be listed in logical order, for instance, alphabetically in order of importance to the work being reported. Each be followed by an address, okay, or affiliation, the address and the affiliation, the email, okay, presented according to the style of the journal. So this address, the email, the affiliation, this differs from one journal to the other. Then comes the abstract, and one thing that's very important and very special about the abstract is that although it heads the article, it's often written last. So it appears almost in the beginning, like it's just after the title and the names, despite it is really written after finishing everything in the paper. So this is partly because writers know what they have achieved, and partly because it's not easy to write an abstract. Abstract is one of the difficult parts of the papers because it summarizes the whole paper. Okay. So abstracts have to summarize what has been done, sometimes in as few as 150 words. So this is the average. So it can go below this to something like around 100 words, can go up to 200 words, but I don't advise to go below or beyond 100 and 200. 150 is a good average. Okay, so it doesn't mean that it has to be exactly 150, but it should be around 150. So it's easier to write an abstract if you remember that all abstracts have a basic structure. So we'll see what we mean by this basic structure. As the paper itself has some sort of a structure, again, the abstract will have some basic structure. We'll take a look at this in a minute. Indeed, the phrase structured abstracts says it all. So let's talk about this structure, these structured abstracts. So structured abstracts are typically written using 5 subheadings. Okay, these are 5 subheadings to consider: background or overview. Okay, so some sort of an introduction. Then the aim or the objectives, why we are doing this research. Okay, and then the method that has been adopted in the experiment or research, and the results, what results or findings we came across, and then the conclusion, what we concluded after the experiment or the research. Sometimes these wordings of the subheadings might vary a little, like objectives might, as I mentioned, might replace aim, for example, but the meaning is much the same. One thing to draw your attention to is that when I say subheadings, or I mean these are subheadings, this doesn't mean that they have to appear like this as subheadings. No, but the contents should appear. I'll show you how. Let's just explain these one by one. So this is some sort of a background, like you read this later, but some sort of an introduction or overview, and then the aim of the study. Why did we do this study? You can read this. Okay, this is some example. Of course, I don't want to go into through this detailed example, but then the method, what method the authors have adapted to run the research or do the experiment. Okay, so these are the first three things: background, aims, methods. Okay, but remember, as we'll see in just a minute, that the abstract doesn't appear exactly like this. So we cannot just go and write background, aim, or aims and method. No. But we have to omit. This should be omitted, and only the contents should be there. I'll show you how. Then the results. Okay, what results? The analysis showed so and so. Okay, and then the conclusion. What do we conclude in the end out of our experiment or research? So these are the 5 parts. Again, this should be omitted, and everything should appear as what we'll see in the next slide. So this is an abstract, you see? So nothing written here. No background, we cannot see, but the contents of the background is there. No aim appears as subheading, no, but the contents of the aim is there. Methodology also appears, or the method appears. Results and conclusion all appears. If you take a look at this, these are the contents that we have seen in the past 2 slides, okay, but without writing subheadings, okay, with contents of the subheadings are included. I hope you got my point. So this is the same. Go back and make sure that this is the same as we have discussed in the previous 2 slides. Then keywords, as mentioned before, those keywords are very important for retrieval or for search engines. So allows readers to judge whether or not an article contains material relevant to their interest, and provide readers with suitable terms to use in web-based search to locate other materials on the same similar topics, and help the indexers or editors to group together related materials in, say, the end-of-year issues of a particular journal or a set of conference proceedings. It allows editors and researchers to recommend changes in the subject discipline over time and link the specific issues of concern to issues at higher level of abstraction. And then the introduction. Okay, so it's a short step from the structured abstract. We just move into the introduction. Okay, so in the following slides, we'll show how each part of the structure of scientific article, the introduction, the method, result, discussion, and conclusion, which represent the IMRaD, okay, and can indeed be subdivided into finer structures. Every one of them is subdivided into finer structures. We will see this. So these subdivided or subdivision or fine structure is basically called a move. Okay, so a move is a stage in the argument that all writers go through. The moves for the introduction are typically as follows. We'll see the moves that we need to have in the introduction. I want to draw your attention to a very important point, that these moves are subdivided into 2 types, 2 categories of moves. Some moves are optional, and some moves are obligatory. So some of the moves you have to have into your paper, even the different parts of the paper and different subheadings, okay? But some of the moves are optional, but these optionals, I recommend use these optionals because they add value into your paper and make it better structured and more attractive. So the first move in the introduction is that the authors establish a research territory. Okay, what these territories are: one, by showing that the general research area is important, why this research is important, central, interesting, problematic, or relevant in some way. So this we have to show. How? By writing about the importance, the problem that this research is trying to solve, okay, and how these are related or relevant in some way. So this is optional. So this is a good start, but still it's optional. I mean, you are not obliged to do it, but it's nice to have it. Okay, it's nice to have this start. Okay, showing the research area. Is why this research area is important and central, interesting, problematic. And this attracts the reader. Second move, though, is not optional; it's obligatory. And here we introduce or start by introducing and reviewing items of previous research in the area. This is a literature review. We have to go through previous research, what others have done. Okay, so this is just some sort of literature review. Okay, previous research. Second move, then the authors establish a niche by indicating the weakness in the account so far. What weaknesses we have found, or the authors found, in the previous research. Okay, and this happens by indicating a gap in the previous research, raising a question about it, or extending previous knowledge in some way. So this is obligatory. We have to find the gap. What's missing? What has not been done, or not covered, or not enough or excessively covered in the previous research. Okay, some sort of a gap. We have to find a gap. Okay, from this point, we come into this point by finding the gap. Okay, this is very important to show the gap, because the gap, then, as we'll see later, we have to fill this gap. Okay, if there's no gap, then no need for our research. We have to find this gap. Okay, so as to fill it. So this is the third move. Then they occupy niche by saying that they are going to put this right. What has been wrong with the previous research, this has to be rectified now by the authors. So this happens by outlining the purpose or stating the nature of the present research. So this is obligatory, okay? Because we have a gap, then we have to fill this gap. By listing research questions or hypotheses to be tested, okay? But this is optional. This is filling the gap is obligatory, but these are optional, because sometimes, especially in the science and engineering questions, maybe hypothesis is not there. This doesn't mean that it's always not there, but sometimes it's not there because it's an experiment, so no meaning of hypothesis. Then by announcing the principal findings, okay, this is again option. That is good to include it. Then comes the method, and the method sections vary in journal articles, but rather less so than introductions. Okay, the variation is less than the variation in the introduction. This is because the moves in the method section generally involve working through a series of subsections. As we'll see, we'll have subsections. Most method sections are usually subdivided with subheadings into 3 sections as follows. So we will have to have in the method section 3 subsections. Sometimes 2, but we have to have at least some of these sections. So participants, if we have more people participating, then the measures and the procedures. If no participants are involved, then method simply describes the measures and procedures. If no participants, then lifetime just the measures and procedures, what procedure we have taken. So students and authors are typically instructed to write their method sections in such a way that the readers can repeat method from the description given. This is very important. We have to describe, as authors, as researchers, we have to describe our method and make a good description without any ambiguity. Nothing should be vague, in such a way that any reader, who's close to the area of research, can repeat the method from the description. And this is very important because authors are sometimes too close to what they did and thus tend to forget to mention tiny but sometimes key details. Because you are familiar with your research, so you think it's easy. Well, I shouldn't mention these details. But then when the readers come, try to redo the same experiment, then they find some details are missing. Some of these details might be key details, important details. So this is a problem. So you must provide all information needed to allow another researcher to judge your study or actually repeat your experiment. And this section includes design of the experiment, any plants or animals involved with exact descriptions, all of the descriptions, like if you have animals, plants, or whatsoever, so you shouldn't necessarily have all of this, but these are just examples of the things that might be involved or might be used, not all of them, but some of them will be used. And materials used, with exact technical specifications and quantities and their source or method of preparation. Generic or chemical names are better than trade names. We have to use the generic or official names, scientific names, not the commercial names, because these commercial names might not be universally recognized. Then the assumptions made, methods followed, usually in chronological order by history, time, So chronological order described with as much precision and detail as necessary. Then standard methods need only be mentioned or may be described by reference to the literature as long as it is readily available. So we have to use standard methods. We don't have to invent. If we have something new, then we have to mention this. Usually some standard methods are there. Then the results, this is very important. This is the core of the paper. So presenting the data that you have found, it is usually easy to follow the results if you present them in the same order as you give the objectives in the introduction. So we have to have the objectives, and we have to come to results from our objectives. So if we don't come to results from the objectives, then we fail to do the research. So we have to align the objectives to the results. A move analysis of the results. Sections of academic articles either looks like this. So these are the moves. The first move, state the main findings in order, relating them in turn to the hypothesis and method used, or to the objectives. State the subsidiary findings if you have some subsidiary findings that you didn't think of, but you, by accident, you came through the experiment you came through, relating them in turn to the hypothesis and methods used. Or it is an interweaving of the two, the principal findings and the subsidiary findings. The first set of main findings and related subsidiary ones, followed by the second set, and so on. So some interaction, interweaving. Again, these subsections may be queued by subheadings, so we might have some subheadings also. Then, as typical in the results section to present the main data that support or reject the hypothesis in the form of tables and graphs. This is very important to have figures, tables, and graphs, but especially tables and graphs. Indeed, it's quite common to find that the first sentence in the results section begins with table 1 or shows that, explaining that you have table or figure 1, graph 1 shows that. So in summary, write your results with accuracy, brevity, and clarity, and use a good topic sentence for each of your paragraphs. Avoid discussing the results. Save such comments for the discussion. So here we just show the results. We don't go into the discussion of the results. Just show the results. Summarize statistical analysis if you have some sort of statistical analysis. Then comes the discussion. What are the implications of these results? What do these results implicate or imply? Like when you go to some lab to do some blood test, you get some results. Who interprets these results? You have to go to the physician. He will interpret these results. That what are the meanings? What do these results imply? So the same thing here. Discussions like introductions have a typical structure. This structure usually contains the following moves. These are the moves that we'll have. So move from number 1, restate the findings and accomplishments. Okay. Then evaluate how the results fit with the previous findings. Okay. Do they contradict with findings, other findings, those who are before? Do they contradict, qualify, agree, or go beyond them? Okay. Then list potential limitations to the study. Then offer an interpretation, explanation of these results, and board of counterclaims. This is the 4th move. Then the 5th move, state the implications and recommended further research. So after all of this, what recommendations they will recommend for those who will pursue with similar studies? Okay? So this will help them when they use our paper as some literature review to easily find the gaps. This is a sort of help from our part to others to find the gaps and start some new research. Then the discussion go beyond summary of the findings, and indeed there may be disciplinary differences in how they are approached. I don't want to go into the all of this. You guys just read this, but remember that we have to go beyond the summary of the findings. Then the references. And references, many styles of references have been developed over the years, like the national standards have been agreed in the USA, UK, Europe, and China. However, few publishers appear to follow these standards precisely. Okay, some softwares and even web-based softwares or websites are being used now for references. I don't want to go into the details, but some of these softwares are the EndNote, for example, Proceedings, Reference Manager, mainly now as a website. Okay, some other AI tools now are being used to write the references. I'll just mention two types of methods writing references without even details. One is the APA style. Okay, so this system is also known as the name-date system. This is because the author's surname in the text is followed by the date of the publication in the brackets, and the reference list listed alphabetically, starting with the name and the initials of the authors, followed by the date of publication for each entry. And this is the format, okay, for different types of sources. Like for books, okay, it appears like this: author, you write the initials, then the year of publication between brackets as mentioned, then the title of work, and should be start with capital letters for even for subtitles, and then the publisher. Like this is an example, okay, Smith, JD, and then the year of publication, 2019 between brackets, and then this is the title and subtitle, okay, and then the publisher. This is for the book. For the journal articles, we start again with the author, or the author name, authors, like the A author, B author, C author, then the title of the article, title of periodical, volume number, issue number, and then the pages, and if it is electronically available, then you also include the DOI of this journal article. As an example, you might have this Johnson, S, and Lee, and this is the year of publication, 2020. This is the title, The Impact of Social Media on New Journal of Communication. Then we have the volume number, 25, the issue number, 3, and then the pages included from 123 to 135, and this is the DOI of the paper, or the journal article. If you have a website, then again, you mention the author, and then between brackets year, month, and day of publication, because usually updates are done onto the website. And then the title of the web page and the web page name, URL. You have to include the URL. Again, this is the name, and these are the date, okay, year, month, and day. And then this is the title, okay, and this is the website name, okay, and this is the URL. Okay, I don't want to go into all the details. I might record a separate tutorial or lecture for references, but this is just an introduction to how to use references. I forgot to mention that APA is usually used in social sciences. Okay. Then the IEEE style, or the Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineers. This is the second type, and this is usually used in engineering, science and engineering. And this is the format for different types of resources. Like for books, we start with the author or authors, then the title of the book, the publisher, and the year. But here, as you see, I forgot to mention that when writing the references there, you have to write the reference in the APA style in alphabetical order. Here in the IEEE style, you don't have to write them in alphabetical order, but with some numbers, like number 1. Okay. This doesn't really mean that as they appear in the paper. No, not necessarily. JK, author, title of the book, and then the publisher and the year. Okay, so there the names just appear in their alphabetical order, regardless of how they appeared in the paper. But here, the sequence that they have appeared in the paper, this is number 1 usually appeared, so I'll just give it number 1. And then for journal articles, we just mention the author or authors, title of the article, abbreviation title of the journal, the volume number, the issue number, and then the pages, month, and year. So this is the example of this. Okay. For conference papers, we do the same, something similar. We start with the author or author's title of the paper, and abbreviation also, conference name, city, country, year, and then the page numbers. And this is an example. This is the author, the title of the paper, and then the abbreviation for the conference, Okay, and then the conference name, okay, city, country, and then year, and these are the pages. And for websites, again, very similar to what we have seen before. Authors, title of document, okay, name of website, year, it's online, and then the URL, access, month, day, and year. So this is number 4. This is the author, the title, name of the website, year, online, and then the available URL, okay, accessed on which month, day, and year. So this is a quick view about references. Those who are interested, please write in the comments section. I'll be glad to assign a separate tutorial or lecture for this topic of citation and references. Here we come to the end of this tutorial. I hope it was informative and of help. If you like this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel, AGHA Academy, on YouTube, share and like on Facebook, and give your impression on LinkedIn. Hope to see you again in the next tutorial. Thank you, and